Hello everyone and welcome to the RV Inspection and Care channel. I'm Dwayne and I'm a certified RV inspector, and today we're going to be talking about how to disinfect an RV freshwater tank. And why do you need to do that anyway? Well, for those of you that are kind of new to RVing, let's explain that most RVs have a freshwater tank in it that allows you to fill it with water and go places where there's no water hookup and still camp in your RV and have fresh water. But the problem is that water sitting in a tank for a period of time often can develop problems, especially over an extended period. Bacteria, germs can grow in there, mold, and then it can be very unhealthy for you to use that water. So there's a need every once in a while, periodically, to go in and just disinfect that freshwater tank. Now there's lots of ways to do that, but what I'm going to show you today is how I disinfect my freshwater tank. And hopefully some of the principles that I cover today in this video will help you kind of determine ways to disinfect your own freshwater tank after you watch the way that I do it. Now, once again, safety always comes first. So wear safety glasses and gloves as needed. But now let's go ahead, let's get started. Let's see how I disinfected my freshwater tank. Well, before I start the actual disinfection process, there's a couple of things that I need to accomplish beforehand. And the first one is I need to bypass my water heater, because it's really not necessary to disinfect the water in there unless you really want to. So that means that I need to turn the valves in the plumbing system so the water is not going into the water heater. If you need to find out how to do that on your RV, usually your manual will show you how. Now the next step is I need to remove the water filters out of the plumbing system, because you really don't want this disinfection solution going into them. And so I just take them right out. Now also, if you have an ice maker in your RV refrigerator, well then this is probably the time for you to go ahead and turn it off. The next step is to make up my disinfectant, my solution, and it's generally recognized that if you add about 1/4 cup of bleach for every 15 gallons of water in the tank, then that should do the job. Well, my tank holds a little over 100 gallons or so of water, so if you divide that by the 15 gallons, it means I need 7 of those 1/4 cups of bleach to make up the total solution. So 7 times 1/4 is about 1 3/4 cups for that cleaning and disinfectant solution. Now, once I have the solution made, I need to add that into the system. Now, in my RV, I have a winterizer kit that allows me to suck up solution using the water pump and inject it into the plumbing system. It's really convenient for winterizing and also for using for disinfectant as well. So if you don't have that winterizer kit, then we'll talk about that a little bit later on and how you can inject the solution manually. But now let's go ahead and start the process. Well, the first step is to go to the water faucet and completely turn off all the city water that is coming into my RV. Then I go to the water inlet part of the RV and turn the valve from city water to fresh water instead. Now I can engage the winterizer kit, and to do that I just turn a couple of valves, and now it's all set to use the water pump to suck up the solution that I've made and put it right into the freshwater tank. So here's the solution, and as you can see, I start with a large pitcher full of fresh water. And there's the 1 3/4 cups of bleach that works for my RV and my tank size. And so I pour it in, and now I can put it into the freshwater tank. So to do that, I insert the hose from the winterizer kit into the pitcher of solution, turn on the water pump, and now it's just going to suck all of that solution right out of the pitcher and put it into the tank. As you can see, it works pretty easily and quickly. Now, if you don't have a winterizer kit like this, then you may have to put it into the water tank manually by using a funnel and just pouring it in instead. But you want to get all of that solution into the tank. Now, once the solution is all out of the pitcher, then I cleaned the pitcher, put in fresh water, put that hose back into the pitcher, turned on the water pump, and put the fresh water through the winterizer kit. And the reason I did that is I don't really want to leave any bleach in the winterizing section of the plumbing system. So this will clean all of the bleach out of the winterizer kit. Now, once that's done, I don't need that kit anymore, so I turn the valves back to their position and take the winterizer kit out of the plumbing system. Now I can go back to the faucet, and we want to open the faucet completely up and allow city water in at this point to fill the fresh water tank all of the way. And you keep filling it until the overflow starts to come out. As you can see, it's coming out underneath my RV. And once the fresh tank overflow is coming out, well, that's the water tank is completely filled. So you go back to the faucet and turn it off so that when we turn on the water pump now, we know that water is coming from the fresh water tank and not from city water. Then inside the RV with the water pump on, I open all of the faucets in the RV on both hot and cold until I smell bleach coming out. And then once the bleach is coming out, I know it's all in those lines, and I can turn the water off on each one of the faucets. Now that I have a fresh tank filled with water and disinfectant solution, if I wanted to, I could dry the RV at this point and get that water sloshing around in there to make sure that it covers everything. But I don't particularly do that usually. I do make sure, though, that I let the solution stay in that tank for at least 8 hours to do its job. However, I will say that letting it go longer, like 12 to 16 hours, may be even better. So now it's time to go ahead and empty the freshwater tank completely. And to do that, I go to the valve at my low point drain, and you'll need to find that on your RV. And then I turn the valve, and all the water in the freshwater tank will start pouring out on the ground. And now this can take quite some time for me. In fact, it took several hours to completely empty that freshwater tank. Now that the freshwater tank is completely empty, I can go to the water faucet, turn it on, and completely refill the freshwater tank with fresh water. Then I go inside the RV, turn on all the faucets on both hot and cold and the shower, and run water through them till there's no more bleach smell. Now, if the bleach smell persists, then I would have to drain that tank again and refill it, and keep doing that until there's no more bleach smell. Finally, after that, I can return the water heater bypasses back to normal, and that puts the water heater back into the plumbing system. Then I go around and reinstall all of my water filters, and then the disinfection process is complete. Well, that's how I disinfected my freshwater tank in my RV. Now, let me say that none of it was really hard to do. It's not physically demanding. It does take some time. So what it requires is that you sort of plan ahead, make sure that you have the time available to give the job the effort that it really requires. But you also are going to need to make sure that you are able to fill that freshwater tank and empty it maybe multiple times without creating a problem for yourself or others. So a little bit of planning is usually involved. Now, as far as how often I disinfect my freshwater tank, well, generally speaking, I do it about every 6 months. But it could mean that you need to do it more often or even less often, depending on your RV camping style. For instance, if you're a full-timer and you boondock a lot, well, then maybe you actually need to disinfect your tank more often. On the other hand, let's suppose you're an RVer that is pretty much only out camping on weekends, and you hardly ever use your freshwater tank. You're almost always in a campground. Well, then maybe you can go a little bit longer. The point is, try to determine your RV camping style and then determine what you feel is best for disinfecting your water tank in the meantime. Well, that's it for now. Have safe and happy travels, my friends. Until next time.